Gang, it's your boy Platt, back with another Spirit Series video. Today we're going to start off in the wonderful world of Brandy. This video will be an overview of the category, and in future videos we'll get into more the different segments of Brandy. Let's start off first with the definition. Brandy is spirits distilled from wine. That's pretty much it. If you saw our wine series, you know that wine is more than just grapes. It can be produced from any fruit, so because wine can come from any fruit, brandy can come from any fruit. Some brandies are aged, some are unaged, some will have caramel coloring to look like they've been aged, so we'll go over that in other videos. The term, or the word brandy itself, comes from the Dutch term brandywine or brandiswine. That translates into burnt wine, which makes sense. You know, if you throw wine in a still, turn up the heat, burnt wine. It was originally done to make shipping wine overseas easier, but people end up liking that final product instead of the wine itself. Let's go to the TTB and see what their definition of brandy is. Help us out a little bit. It is a spirit distilled from the fermented juice, mash, or wine of fruit or from its residue. Now what that means is, some people, if we were running a vineyard in Italy or France, let's say, we would have the workers go out, pick the grapes, press them, we get that juice, we make our vineyard's world famous wine. But there would still be some juice left in that skin, and the workers would take that, squeeze it out, get that last little bit of juice to make their wine. Now, unfortunately, it didn't make great wine, because once you press the skins that much, you get a lot of the tannins out of the skin. But if you throw it through a still, it makes a decent brandy, and that's what that is in reference to. It has to be at no more than 95% alcohol or 190 proof, and it has to be bottled at least 80 proof here in the U.S. I believe in Europe they let them go a little bit lower, like 70, 75 proof. The brandy family is quite a large category. There is, of course, the basic brandy from grape. There's fruit brandies that come from any other fruit but grapes. There's something called Pisco, which is a Peruvian brandy that is unaged and stored in clay pots instead of barrels. Here in the U.S. we have apple brandy, but we also have a variation called Apple Jack. That is produced by freeze distillation instead of throwing it through a still. I actually have done a video on how to produce that, and I'll leave the link up here. In Europe there's something called Kirschweiser, that's a cherry brandy. They also have Slivovitz, which is a plum brandy. We have Calvados, which is apple brandy, but from a specific region in France. There's what called pumice brandies, and that's the ones I was talking about earlier, made from the residue of the skins. The most popular form of that is called grappa. And last but not least, the two probably most prominent forms of brandy are Armagnac and Cognac. The EU, brandy must come from grapes. They don't use the term fruit brandy. A good example is that Kirschweiser or cherry brandy. It would just say Kirschweiser in the bottle. It wouldn't say cherry brandy. The only time you'll see that term over there is if it's imported from the U.S., because they know we use that term. So if it's a cherry brandy from the U.S., it'll say cherry brandy. If it was produced in Europe, it'll say Kirschweiser. Here in America, if it comes from anything else but grapes, it must have that fruit's name in front. So pear brandy, apple brandy, what have you. Canada, brandy is pretty much anything distilled from wine. They do allow the addition of caramel coloring, fruit, different flavorings. They allow the distiller a little more room up there. Brandy has its own aging designations. If you see the term VS on a bottle, that stands for very special. That has been aged a minimum of 2 years. If you see the term VSOP, that's very special old pale. That is aged a minimum of 4 years. And if you see the term XO, that is a minimum age of 6 years. You may see the term Ordiage. That cognacs, or it's if you see it on a brandy, that's equal to XO and cognacs, or 6 years. But if it's associated with Armagnac, that means it's been aged a minimum of 10 years. So something to keep an eye out for. Russia has a similar system for designating brandies. You'll see 3, 4, or 5 stars. That is the equivalent of 2, 3, and 4 years of aging. The particular brandy we're going to try today is the Christian Brothers VS Brandy. Christian Brothers was founded in 1882, originally as a winery. It was almost 60 years, it wasn't until 1940 that they produced their first brandy, but today they're known for their brandies and not their wines. Let's give this a try. Alright, mellow nose. The color looks like it, might be age 8, 10 years. It kind of reminds me of some bourbons or whatever, with a heavy charred barrel. But that VS designation tells me that's not quite it. So there's probably a little caramel in there. Kind of a sweetness on the nose. Let's give her a try. Whew. That definitely has a little burn, a little warming to it. Some sweetness up front. I want to say a hint of vanilla. There's something that's acting like wood. I don't know if I'm getting a lot of wood notes, but there's something that at least replicates that. Overall, it's body-wise, whatever, it's drinkable. There's a little bite to it in the aftertaste. Not bad. It's not harsh. There's a little bite, but I wouldn't say it's harsh. To be honest, there's no extreme flavors, nothing. This probably has a lot of versatility as far as mixing. I'm not sure this is something I would necessarily sip by the fire, but if you wanted to use it in some kind of mixer, again, there's a lot of great brandy cocktails there. This does not overpower anything. Like the Brandy Alexander is a great example. This is not going to overpower the nutmeg you sprinkle on top, or the vanilla you get from the ice cream, or even the cream de coca. Yeah, this is a nice enough, mellow enough brandy that it'd probably work great for cocktails. I don't know if this is something you would cherish, though, after a great meal or anything like that. I did note real quick, though, it says aged in oak bourbon barrel, so maybe more of that color than I'm thinking does come from the barrels. Maybe it might be a heavy oak charred bourbon barrel than a sherry barrel or something like that. Well, I hope you liked this video. If you did, please subscribe down below. Also, please like the video because it lets YouTube know we're putting out good content. If you have any questions, comments, concerns, please leave them in the comment section, or you can always contact me on the Twitter page. Till next time, bottoms up.